I was 17 when my family decided I wasn't worth the space I lived in. My mom said it softly, like she was giving me advice instead of throwing me out. You're almost an adult. It's time you learn responsibility. But we both knew what it really meant. My brother, the golden child, needed his own room. And apparently, the only solution was to kick me out of the house I had lived in my whole life. My father didn't look at me while he said, "It's temporary." But his voice held the finality of a slammed door. My brother smirked from the hallway, arms crossed like a prince getting his throne polished. He had always been the favorite, always rewarded, always forgiven. If he crashed the car, it was my fault for not teaching him better. If he failed a test, I was distracting him. If he lied, I was being dramatic. But being kicked out of the home for him, that hit a place even deeper than the humiliation. I packed a single duffel bag while my mother hovered behind me pretending to feel guilty. She didn't actually help. She just sighed loudly every few seconds and said things like, "You know he needs stability right now." I didn't even bother to ask what I needed. They didn't care. When I walked out, they didn't come to the porch to hug me or watch me leave. They just closed the door. I slept on my friend's couch for months while balancing school and 2 part-time jobs. My friend's family treated me better in those months than my own ever had. Still, I kept my head down and kept moving. The pain of abandonment shifted into something sharper, something useful, a determination to build a life they could never take credit for. By 19, I had saved every extra penny. I walked into a local auction and bought a small, old house on the edge of town. It needed work, lots of work, but it was mine. Not my mother's, not my father's, and definitely not my brother's. I spent every weekend sanding floors, painting walls, fixing pipes, and learning through YouTube tutorials and trial and error. The house became a living symbol of my independence, every nail hammered a reminder that I never needed the people who threw me away. Years passed without a visit from my family. No calls, no holidays, not even a birthday text. I heard bits and pieces through neighbors. My brother got into trouble constantly, burned through my parents' savings, demanded things, manipulated them, lied, and got bailed out again and again. It didn't surprise me. They created their own monster. Then one day, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in years. My mother. I stared at the screen so long that it stopped ringing. When she called again, I picked up. Her voice was shaky, gentle in a fake sugar-coated way I remembered too well. "Sweetie, how have you been? We've missed you." I almost laughed. Missed me. They didn't even know where I lived. Before I could respond, she said, "We want to come by and see you." As a family. I should have hung up, but I didn't. Something inside me wanted to hear what the real reason was. They arrived the next day, standing on my porch as if they owned the place. My brother walked in without asking, commenting loudly about how nice it looked and how big the rooms were. My father stood in the kitchen inspecting things like a buyer. My mother finally said it. "Your brother is going through a difficult time. He needs a place to stay. Your house has so much extra space, and we think it would be best if he lived here now." I stared at her, speechless. They kicked me out of their house for him, and now they wanted to kick me out of my house for him again. She kept talking, twisting guilt into every sentence. "You don't really need to live alone. You're young. You know he needs stability. You should do the right thing. For the family." I asked, "You want me to give him a room?" My brother smirked the old smirk that had haunted my childhood. "Actually," my mother said, "we think it would be best if he had the house. You can rent something small. This house fits him better." My father nodded like it was already decided. They didn't even ask me, they told me. They assumed I would obey, the discarded child still desperate for approval. But I wasn't that kid anymore. Deep inside me, something burned with a cold, precise fire. I told them we would talk about it the next day. But that night, I made a decision. A silent vow. They had taken everything from me once. They had broken my trust, my sense of belonging, my belief that family meant love. This time, I would take something from them. Not with anger, not with screaming, but with strategy. I would give them exactly what they deserved. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my small wooden kitchen table, the same one I bought secondhand when I first moved in, and stared at the wall while planning every detail. My family thought I was still the naive, desperate for love version of myself they had abandoned. They didn't know who I had become. I learned independence the hard way, and independence had taught me something valuable. People who think they own you never expect you to fight back. They expect guilt, fear, hesitation. They never expect strategy. The next morning, I called my parents and told them to come over to discuss things peacefully. My mother sounded relieved, like she already believed she'd won. My father said, "You're doing the right thing." My brother didn't say anything, he just laughed in the background. I hung up and felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, no hurt. Just focus. They arrived right on time, walking in like the house already belonged to them. My father took a seat on my couch. My mother placed her purse on the table like she was moving in. My brother wandered around touching things, opening cabinets, sizing up the space like a king choosing which corner of the castle he wanted for himself. My mother gave a practiced sigh. "We're glad you're ready to talk. Your brother has had a hard year. He needs support. He needs consequences," I replied. My brother rolled his eyes. "Don't start your drama," he muttered. My father shot me a warning look. "Let's keep this respectful," he said firmly. By respectful, he meant obey us without questioning. Some habits never die. I decided to play the part for a moment. I pretended to think deeply, then said the words they wanted to hear. "Maybe you're right. Maybe he does need stability." My mother lit up instantly. My father nodded approvingly. My brother smirked with full confidence. My mother touched my arm gently. "We knew you'd make the right choice. Blood is blood." That sentence, after everything they had done, almost made me laugh. Blood is blood. They had treated me like a stranger for years. I let them enjoy their victory for a full minute, then delivered the next part of my plan. "Just one thing," I said. "I need you all to sign a simple agreement before anything changes." My father leaned forward. "Agreement?" My brother frowned. My mother tilted her head. "What kind of agreement?" I walked to the drawer and took out a folder I had prepared the night before. "Just a basic document saying that if I give you temporary rights to the house, none of you can attempt to claim ownership, ask for a transfer, or force me out of my own property. It's just to avoid confusion later." My father stiffened. My brother scoffed. My mother's face tightened. But I kept my tone calm, innocent, almost apologetic. "It protects us all," I said. "You know, so no one gets hurt feelings." My father didn't like it, but greed is a powerful drug. They wanted the house too badly to question the fine print. My mother took the papers first and flipped through the pages. She didn't read them, of course. She never read anything she secretly hoped to exploit. My father skimmed the first page, then the last. My brother didn't look at them at all. He just said, "Just sign it, Mom. It's not a big deal." So they did, all three of them. Inside that document, which I drafted with the help of a lawyer friend, was a detailed clause stating that by signing, they acknowledged the house as my sole property, waived any right to live in it, and legally forfeited any future claim or involvement concerning it. They didn't read it, and I didn't remind them. When the last signature hit the paper, I felt something inside me shift, a quiet click of justice falling into place. My mother exhaled dramatically. "Now that this is settled, your brother needs to move in immediately. He's brought some of his things already." I looked at her with a blank face. "Move in." She nodded, pleased. "Yes. We'll help him get settled." I folded the agreement slowly. "Actually," I said, "that's not going to happen." My brother spun around. "What?" My father stood up. "What are you talking about?" My mother's smile vanished. I held up the signed document. "This paper you signed says none of you have any rights to live here. You gave up every claim you think you had." My mother lunged forward. "That is not what we agreed to." I stepped back. "Maybe you should have read it." My brother's face turned red. "Cancel it. Tear it up. You tricked us." My father's voice dropped to a dangerous low. "We are your family." That sentence was meant to intimidate me years ago, but it had no power now. I stood straighter than I ever had in front of them. "You kicked me out when I was 17. You chose him over me. You abandoned me. I don't owe you anything." My mother started crying angry tears. "How could you do this to us?" My brother threw a lamp across the room. My father grabbed the armrest of the couch, shaking with rage. "We raised you." I laughed, actually laughed, because the moment was so twisted it almost felt unreal. "You raised me until I became inconvenient. Then you threw me away." My brother took a step toward me, fists clenched. "Give me the house, or you'll regret it." I didn't move. "If you don't leave right now," I said calmly, "I'm calling the police and showing them the signed agreement." The color drained from my father's face. He knew I wasn't bluffing. My brother muttered curses under his breath. My mother kept sobbing dramatically, hoping guilt would break me. But guilt only works when you still crave love. They left. They slammed the door. They screamed threats. They promised revenge. I didn't chase them. I didn't apologize. I locked the door and stood quietly in my living room, surrounded by the home I built with my own hands. For the first time in my life, I felt untouchable. But their defeat wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. After they walked out of my door that day, I thought the chaos would end. I thought signing the papers and confronting them would be enough to make them disappear from my life forever. I underestimated how far desperation, entitlement, and humiliation could push a family that had never taken responsibility for anything. For a week, everything was quiet. No calls, no messages, no unannounced visits. I slept peacefully for the first time in years. But the quiet didn't last. It never does when people like them feel like they've lost control. The first sign came one morning when I found my mailbox stuffed with letters, bank notices, loan advertisements, even real estate pamphlets. At first, I thought it was normal junk mail. But then I noticed every single address label had been changed. Someone had tried to update my contact information with multiple companies, likely hoping important documents would go missing. Then came the online harassment. Fake accounts messaging me, pretending to be neighbors, trying to intimidate me, telling me my brother deserved my house more than I did. I recognized my brother's typing style instantly, and honestly, it was almost laughable. But it also showed me that they weren't going to give up easily. 2 days later, my father showed up at my house at 7 in the morning. He banged so loudly on the door that I thought it might crack. When I opened it, he didn't even ask to come in. He stormed inside like I was still a child under his roof. "You tricked us," he snapped. "We talked to a lawyer." I leaned against the wall calmly. "Good," I said. "What did they say?" His jaw tightened. He didn't answer. I knew the silence meant he didn't get the response he wanted. The agreement was airtight. They had no claim, no leverage, no legal grounds to force me out. But pride is a stubborn thing. He moved closer, pointing a finger at my chest. "Your brother has nothing. He's your family. You're heartless." I almost felt bad for a second, but then I remembered the nights I slept hungry, the mornings I walked to work in cold rain, the times I cried silently on a borrowed couch because I had nowhere else to go. And every memory wiped away any guilt he tried to plant. "I learned from the best," I said, staring straight into his eyes. "You taught me what heartlessness looks like." His hand trembled with rage. But for once, he had no power over me. He left with the same anger he brought. My mother showed up next. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She played her favorite card, the victim. She stood outside my house crying dramatically, loud enough for neighbors to peek out their windows. "We're your parents," she wailed. "We made mistakes, but you're ruining your brother's life." I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. "You ruined his life by spoiling him," I replied. "You gave him everything and taught him nothing." She tried to fall to her knees like some tragic movie scene. I simply stepped back and refused to entertain the performance. Eventually she stopped crying long enough to whisper, "If you don't help him, he'll end up homeless." I felt a tiny sting at that. But then the sting faded when I remembered how easily they had let me become homeless at 17. She wasn't mourning my brother. She was mourning the end of their control. The final act came from my brother himself. He arrived at night, pounding on my door, shouting slurs, demanding I let him in. He threatened to break the windows. He threatened to call the cops. He threatened to hurt me. I stayed behind the locked door and recorded everything. His rage eventually turned into pathetic whining. "You don't deserve this house," he slurred. "You got lucky. I'm the one who should have it." When he finally staggered away, I called the police non-emergency line and filed a report, not to punish him, but to document everything. Because the next step was already forming in my mind. The next morning, I walked into a lawyer's office with the signed agreement and the stack of harassment reports. By afternoon, a restraining order was filed. Not just against my brother, but against all three of them. The order barred them from approaching my home, my workplace, or contacting me in any form. When the papers were delivered, my phone exploded with unknown numbers calling nonstop. I didn't answer a single one. I didn't need to hear their excuses or screams. What I didn't expect was what happened next. A neighbor stopped me one day as I was taking out the trash. "I heard about your family," she said gently. "I just want you to know, everyone in the neighborhood saw what they tried to do." I blinked, confused. She explained that people had watched them show up, yell, cry, try to force their way in. They had made a spectacle of themselves without realizing the whole street was watching. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said. "You did the right thing." For a moment, I felt something warm inside me, a kind of validation I never expected. But the real closure came a week later. I was sitting on my porch in the evening when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Normally, I ignored them. But this one was short, different. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "Your brother." For a second, I didn't believe it. Then another message came, longer this time. "Mom and Dad always made me feel like everything was supposed to be mine. I'm not used to hearing no. But I messed up. I know I did. I don't expect anything. I just wanted to say sorry." I didn't respond right away. I didn't forgive him. I didn't invite him over. But for the first time ever, he admitted something real. And that, strangely enough, was the most powerful revenge of all. Not the legal victory, not the restraining order, not keeping my house, not proving them wrong. It was watching the golden child finally see the truth. They couldn't steal my house. They couldn't control my life. They couldn't break me again. I built myself from nothing, without them. And now, they finally knew it.